You could totally change the situation, but you're just lying to yourself and you don't want to.
Houston Ensemble podcast has been on hiatus, but that's because we were doing so many other things behind the scenes. You don't even know. We can't even talk about all of it. But he has returned. The comedic warrior of Houston, Ryan Scroggins. Thank you for coming, brother.
Thank you guys for having me.
I'm very excited. We're gonna start a little bit soft, a little bit happy, but you want to stick around because we're gonna ramp it up extreme, okay? And then go ahead, subscribe right now, like, comment, leave a quick comment right now, a quick comment later with your questions. We do need you guys to be supportive of us. We only ask you to take a second, but it means a lot to us. Now let's begin.
I think that we're on episode 78. I think that's what it is today. We'll look it up here when our last one was with you, but
Last one was 69.
69? Okay. It's probably been about a year. So we'll see if we think of anything that lines us up like they have been in the past. I was like, remember for the past two, I had worn the same shirt by chance?
Yeah.
And I could not remember what shirt it was, but I was like, I'm not going to look it up today. Do you remember what shirt it was?
It's like a tie-dye kind of
Oh, I know which one.
multicolored.
I couldn't even remember, but I was like, I'm not going to look at it just in case, but definitely not. I'm wearing my moon shirt right
Nice.
now. This is a moon landing shirt.
Are those like all little pictures of the moon landing?
Yeah, I think they're all fake pictures of the moon landing, stuff like that.
That's cool.
Anyway.
Stanley Kubrick slides.
Yeah, probably. But real quick, for people who are probably like, maybe they're seeing this first one back, quick bio of you. Just tell the people like what you're about, and then we'll really delve in.
So I'm not from Houston originally, but I've lived here well over half my life. I'm a local tattooer, local musician, super involved in several Western mystery schools here in town, including Blue Lodge Masonry, Scottish Rite Masonry, Grotto, Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn, Builders of the Adytum, Kemetic Orthodoxy, etc.
Perfect. Yeah, and we met via our doctor by chance. So it was
Dr.
great.
Chang.
Dr. Chang, check out their MR10 if you need anything. It's an amazing supplement.
What's the name of their website? Chang Vitalities, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
changvitalities.com, I believe. Yeah, they've really been up in their game too on all the branding and whatnot. But I don't know. So maybe we can just start off with like, what have you been up to? Give us some recent stuff. Obviously, we hit a little bit of it earlier, but we can bring it back.
So much stuff, really. So since the last time I've seen you guys, I'm trying to think of everything. Not going to get into it too much, but I am in the process right now of opening a new tattoo shop here in Houston. It's going to be called Rose and Cross Tattoo. The big reveal should be in a couple weeks. I also got on the education board for the Scottish Rite of Houston.
Nice.
So I'm basically teaching classes between every degree for the reunions, which has been a lot of fun so far. Tons of stuff, really. Like, it's hard for me to think of everything. I've done so much since the last time I saw you guys. We had a public event for the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn, which hardly ever happens. And that was a success. We could talk about that a little bit later if y'all want. Yeah.
Shaved your beard.
Cut it down a little bit.
I feel like it was a lot longer last year,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Because it was a big chop.
Cut it down a little bit. Got glasses. Getting old.
How old are you?
45.
I wouldn't. Timeless. I wouldn't know.
Yeah, not that old.
Yeah. I was gonna say maybe what is this public Golden Dawn event?
So we've had a temple here in the Houston area probably since 2007. I'd say at least like 15 years. I've been in it for 13 years, but I think a lot of locals don't know that it exists. So we talked to the guy that runs our particular branch of the Golden Dawn and kind of got permission to do a public event last year, and it was really good. I think we wanted to do 2 a year, but after we did it, we were like, that's too much to do. It was a lot of work. So I think we're going to do them once a year. We haven't done one this year yet. I think we're going to try to catch one in January or February. Will probably be the next one. But what we did this year is we created a meetup group. That seems to work fairly well for like local meetup type things. So we created a meetup group, advertised it. We did it at the Oddfellows Lodge in the Heights, and it was good. We had a short lecture on the history of the order downstairs. We had little charcuterie plates and wine for sale, so it was cool. Like you could have a little snack and some wine during the lectures. Then we took everybody upstairs, and we did a full-on invocation of the fifth element of spirit for the public to witness, and it was really cool. It was at night, so we had candles everywhere, and we did the whole entire thing. We did a procession for the matron goddess of our particular temple at the beginning, went through the whole deal where there was banishing, purification, and consecration, the actual invocation, the Enochian calls. There was even a Eucharist that the crowd was able to partake in. And that was like probably an hour and a half to 2 hour long ritual. And we had maybe 50 to 60 people attend. So it was good. We had a suggested donation at the door, but we didn't like make people pay. But it was good. It was a good public outreach. Surprisingly enough, a bunch of Masons showed up that I didn't even know, and a couple of them joined. So it was good for public outreach. You know, the reason we wanted to do it is because the temple here has become very strong, and I just don't think a lot of people know about it. And I think there's a lot of people out there that, if they knew that there was a local temple, they would be more inclined to join and become active.
For our really, really, really fresh audiences that don't know, and they're like, Masons. I thought that was some made up, James Bond stuff. What is Masons? Who are Masons? The Masons are real? What is that? Tell us.
Well, I'm not going to go into the history of it. That would be a whole other podcast that someone else could probably do better than me. But essentially, the Masons are not necessarily a secret society. They prefer to say they're not a secret society. They're a society with secrets.
Right.
But Masonry is an organization that essentially takes... One of the slogans is, we take good men and make them better. And there's... The real secrets of Masonry are contained within the initiations. There's 3 degrees. The 3rd degree is when you become a Master Mason. Those are actual physical initiations that you go through. And you're taught, lessons from older mystery schools within those about, mortality, life and death, and, how you should live your life. It's not a religious organization, but there is a rule that you must believe in a higher power to join. You cannot be an atheist. So yeah, that's essentially, it's fraternal. It's a men-only organization. There is a branch of it for women called the Eastern Star, but it's kind of a separate thing. And it's just like in my opinion, I recommend every man I know to become a Mason. I think it's a very good thing.
It's interesting because I think people would think that it's exclusive.
It's not.
But it's not.
It's not. And one of the rules is too, we're not supposed to
proselytize.
What's the word?
Like trying.
We're not supposed to enlist. We're not supposed to go out and try to get people to become Masons.
Right.
The rule is like they have to come to you. They always say, to be one, ask one. But it's not exclusive at all.
And
Very-
what about the? Sorry to interrupt.
No,
what
it's all
about
good.
the junior division?
Jacques Desmoulins for the kids. I don't know a whole lot about that. I do know a bunch of Masons that are in my lodge that were in the Desmoulins when they were kids, and they all loved it. I was at a Scottish Rite event almost a year ago, and we had the Desmoulins kids come in and do a one of their rituals for us, and it was really cool. Like I was really, really, really impressed with the Houston Desmoulins kids. Like,
Really?
Yeah, I was kind of blown away. I was like, man, these kids are making some of these adults look like chumps with the amount of memory work that they've done. Like,
Right.
it was like watching an awesome play that these kids had done. You could tell they had done it many times, but they were great, man. Like,
Yeah.
it was really impressive.
Children actually have like an impervious memory. Like they have a ridiculous memory. But I was also gonna say, people don't realize the Mickey Mouse Club is modeled after the Desmoulins.
Oh yeah.
So
Well, Walt Disney was a Mason, so
and Walt Disney was a Mason, and Club 33, obviously an elite club restaurant for people that were, for lack of a better word, investors in the Disney Club. They
it was
would go
called
there.
Club 33.
Club 33. You can look that
yeah,
up too.
yeah, yeah. I think a lot of we can, if we're talking about something like
tab.
this, we can
Yeah.
let people know something real quick about like just the basic thing.
That's pretty cool. I never heard that.
Yeah, we could.
You never heard about Club 33?
No.
No,
Let's go to the wiki.
Walt Disney.
Club 33 comprises a number of private dining clubs located within the various Disney parks, first opening in 1967 inside Disneyland Park. The club was modeled after numerous executive VIP lounges created by pavilion sponsors in the 1964 New York World Fair.
That's right, yeah.
But yeah, there's that.
That's cool.
So, and then you can look up Mickey Mouse Club, and even some of the ways that, like, even the parties that the Mickey Mouse Club would throw, and some of the stuff they did on TV was the exact modeling of rituals from Jacques Desmoulins. So, now I can go on and 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 on forever about this, but we were just talking off camera about Adam Weisskampf, the Bavarian Illuminati. And I do want to get into that because very little is understood about the origin of the term Illuminati, why everybody says Illuminati all the time. Why is that still a popular term? Why is it it's in video games, the triangle with the eye. It's in pop culture. It's in fake culture. It's in jokes. It's everywhere. So maybe, Chad, you can even put up Bavarian Illuminati. And we can real brief.
Speaking of video games, did you guys
Yeah.
ever play any of the Assassin's Creed games?
Oh, perfect example. Tell us about that.
Yeah, there's tons of I've only played a couple of them, but there's tons of Illuminati symbolism, masonry. I mean, the logo for the game is practically the square and compasses,
Right.
Somebody saw a real quick video. It's probably not exact, but I had never seen this the other day, and I just was passing through, and a video came where it was like they took two crosses, then he turned them upside down and linked them at the tips, and it created a square and compass, and I was like, all right.
Got to check the
Come
degrees
on.
on that. Got to
Yeah.
check the compass on that, but it should.
I don't
be
think
it.
the degree. I looked at it again though later, or I looked at something else, and I was like, I feel like you had to morph the cross in some sort of way to really get it like that. So, long story short,
depends on
not
the lengths
exactly
of-
what I
lengths
thought.
of the
Yeah,
cross.
because the bottom of the square I don't think would line up correct, but
That's-
yeah.
that is interesting.
I was like, yeah.
So
there you
maybe
go.
we can read just a couple of sentences off that real quick.
The
What we got?
Illuminati is a name given to several groups, both real and fictitious. Historically, the name, now mind you, this is Wikipedia. Historically, the name usually refers to the Bavarian Illuminati, an Enlightenment era secret society founded on the 1st of May, 1776 in Bavaria, today part of Germany. The society's stated goals were to oppose superstition, obscurantism, religious influence over public life, and abuses of state power.
1776, which is the founding of the United States, right? Declaration of Independence, right?
Yeah.
So this is, and we can get into it even further about congressional archives, how spies in Europe were mailing letters to Washington telling him that an order has appeared which stands to challenge the new United States. And that's all in the Congressional Archives. The reason I point this out, and I guess we're going to start getting a little serious, is even today, Ryan, last time we spoke, I would say 10% of the population was kind of like, what's going on? Maybe 15, 20. Now I would say over 30% of the population is like, what is going on? Something's weird. Like, I don't have money like I used to. My wife is complaining we don't have any savings. We can't spend on our kids like we used to. Mortgage looks weird. I don't know if we can do it. Stock market's being funny. What the hell? Everything's up. What's going on? What are your thoughts?
Well, we talked about it a little bit last year, but I mean, I think that COVID was a blessing in disguise because it triggered a lot of people to wake up,
Yeah.
you know? And I think that that's still happening because COVID was a trigger for a lot of these people to wake up. Now that they're awake, they're starting to notice things with politics, and they're keeping that momentum of searching for the truth awake and
Yeah.
alive. You know what I mean? So I think that that's a good thing. But yeah, it's going to take. The unfortunate thing is it's going to take a lot for the majority of humanity to wake up. I mean, look at the alien stuff that's happened. It's like now the government's basically like, yeah, not only are, UFOs real, but aliens are real, and we have documents, and,
Mm-hmm.
and most people are like, who cares?
Mm-hmm.
Where I think that it's like they have to see a real alien in front of their face
Yeah.
to like care. You know what I mean?
I
Like
think that might be it. Like,
people are so desensitized that it's kind of weird,
Mm-hmm.
I was thinking to myself the other day, though, I might need to see a real alien to really believe instead of trusting the word of those people. I'm not saying we don't or they're not telling the truth about it, but I'm just like, I'm so detached from it.
Yeah.
I can't access what they're accessing really. I mean, sure, you can tell me I can find like a document like that was declassified or something. That does not do it for me.
Well, and I do think that last, what do you call it?
Hearing?
Disclosure.
Hearing, yeah, or
Hearing,
whatever.
yeah.
I think that was kind of a, hey, look over here,
Yeah.
like distraction.
Also,
Because
right.
it's like everything that they were saying, it's like, yeah, we already know all of this.
Right.
And so now we should believe you because you were lying previously, but now
Yeah.
we're just going to listen to what you're saying.
Yeah.
Right?
To me, I thought it was funny because so many people were like, oh my God, did you see this? Did you see this? And I'm like, man, it's nothing new to me.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I do think it's good that people are coming out and saying that, but at the same time, I'm like, this is kind of old news, really.
It's probably best that what it's doing is bringing general aware. It's basically saying to the mass population, be aware, or it's just like something to think about if you have not ever thought about it. Maybe that's good. But there was right when that hearing was happening, there was this scene that came out where it was in California or Nevada or something like that. It was this family that said like there was this thud in their backyard and they saw like 7-foot beings, and it was right with-
California?
yeah.
Yeah, I saw that.
And I was like, oh, I'm watching this video because there was a few things that happened on that specific day that I talked about, and I forgot the other
Did you
thing.
see all of the videos from that?
I did.
Some of it's crazy, like the police cam footage of the thing crashing. Did you see that
I
one?
did. Yeah, I saw
the
that.
neighborhood?
Yeah. Yeah, I saw that.
Like that was to me, the biggest evidence of, well, not evidence, but anomaly that you could physically see.
I wonder if we can. Let me see if I can.
There was a video too that someone showed of their back gate. Did you see that? Where you could see something like peeking through the fence?
I thought I watched all these videos. Hold on, let's see if we can see the.
The fence video where you can supposedly see something.
And it's on YouTube. How cool is that?
Also follow this tattoo, so that's why I'm kind of curious. Did you see anything land in your backyard, or?
Is this when it
See a
happens?
cat over there?
Yeah, this is the family.
Right.
Do you have cameras?
Fuck, I wish we could just see the police cam one. I don't want to have to skip around all this.
It's like watching reality TV.
I think it's weird too because in one of the videos, I don't know if it's one or multiple, but they say when they tried to film the backyard where this thing was, everything was blurred out.
Oh, just on the camera?
And in real life.
Oh wow.
Oh, shit.
It's like a screen of
Ooh,
blur.
that's weird.
Yeah, so they said that they think that this thing was setting off some kind of distortion field to where you couldn't see what was going on.
Freaking sweet.
Yeah.
Let's try this.
It's like, who knows, though?
Take a look at this viral video from La Junta in southeastern Colorado.
What?
You wish.
Yeah, I've seen this
You
video
fucking
before. I think
wish.
that's CGI.
Or just literally a person.
He's fucking doing the
in
stanky
a-
leg. Look.
Something. Yeah, oh my
What
god.
the hell is that?
Oh, and then it vanishes? I mean, okay,
the
that'd be
video
cool if they were
restarts.
real.
Yeah.
Oh, it was restarting, yeah.
Yeah, okay, well that was
Have you heard about this this whole like distortion field technology stuff? Like,
I know the concept.
It's like Predator. You know how
Yeah,
on
yeah.
Predator he can like make himself invisible, but when he's moving, you can see like
yeah.
kind of a blur where it
Yeah.
looks like a human shaped
Ah.
mirror type image.
Yeah.
Like we have it for like
Where it looks like heat.
for jet planes, I believe. Like
Right.
I think that they came out and said that we have the technology, and basically what it is they put cameras on top of a jet to where they're facing up, but they will project that underneath.
Right.
So if it's flying over you, you're seeing a projection of
above,
what's
right.
actually above it, but
Right.
from underneath, so it camouflages it.
I
I think
saw
it's
that.
the same type of technology.
we have clothes that do that.
Really?
Yeah. That was on like CNET. It was like all over. It was like on the tech press conferences. It's all.
Oh, I
public.
think I actually remember.
Yeah.
I think it's not like out, like no, not average people can do that, but it's
Yeah.
like cool tech stuff that they're testing.
But like what you said, it's a video of the bag. They put it on the front.
Yeah.
Boom.
I think a lot of these, I watch a lot of like, there's a YouTube channel I like to watch called King Frostmare. Have you ever heard of this guy? He's a German guy and he just does like videos of ghosts and like weird things happening, right? And it's just compilation videos. But there's a lot of videos. Some of them are obviously like, okay, that's not real. Some of them are pretty interesting though. And there's a lot of them where you'll see these human shaped things moving around, but they're like see-through, like a ghost would be. But a lot of it, I kind of speculate that it's like, well, maybe that's either an interdimensional being or something like that with this type of like invisibility camouflage technology or something. You know what I mean?
yeah,
I don't think all of that stuff is always a ghost.
totally. Oh yeah, I completely agree. I feel like it would make sense if there are definitely interdimensional type aliens that can just kind of blip in and blip out.
Yeah.
That would be easy. I feel like if it almost doesn't make sense to me if the aliens are like crashing ships and like wandering around and getting caught. I just don't.
Did y'all see that? It was a Joe Rogan podcast that came out maybe less than 6 months ago. I can't remember the guy's name, but he wrote a book. I don't know if he wrote a book. He made a documentary about alien spacecraft crashing. I believe it was Brazil, Peru, somewhere in South America.
Is it Jeremy Corbell?
No, it's
Okay.
a different guy. I've never heard of this guy before, but he went and made a documentary. The documentary is all in Portuguese. I think it was in
Oh.
Brazil. And it's crazy. It's called like the South American what's the South American Area 51, I think is what they were calling it. Like
Oh wow.
and yeah, it's like the whole village saw it. there was 3 or 4 aliens that like got out of this crash. Everyone saw them. These 3 little girls went up to one, had this crazy experience. They interview the girls now, but they're like adults. They talked to who was the president of the country at that time, and he's like, "Oh no, this totally happened. Like we had the military go out. I was there. They confiscated the bodies. I don't think that they were all dead. And basically, long story short, the U.S. government showed up, picked up everything, and took it away, and that was the end of the story. But y'all should watch it. I can't remember what it's called. You type in like Joe Rogan, South American alien crash, you'll find it pretty quick. Yeah, that's the guy. Brazil's Roswell. That's what they were calling it. Brazil's Roswell.
Let's just take a peek at it. See what he says.
There's
here.
the name of the documentary will be on one of those too. I can't remember the name, but I ended up renting it after I watched the interview, and it's really good. It's really good because they talked to so many people. Yeah, that's a drawing of what the little girls saw.
Jeez.
Yeah, these things were weird because they look like grays, but they were saying that they were black, and they had little horns on their head, and they had red eyes. Instead of being white aliens with black eyes, they were black aliens with red eyes. And they said that they were like injured from the crash, and they were telepathically talking to the little girls, telling them that they were hurt and they were afraid and they were trying to get away. Like, it's pretty wild.
Oh my God. All right. Why isn't it?
So that's going on, right? Okay, but so if we're talking about little beings and they're in backyards and everybody's auntie's like, "Oh yeah, let's bring him over for supper. Like, it's gonna be great." I want to go back one more time to that book I was talking about that was given to George Washington. So you can look up, it's called Proofs of a Conspiracy Against All Religions and Governments by,
Oh, I remember.
yeah, this was John Robinson. And it was in the it's currently in the John Adams Library, also called the Boston Public Library. Okay? The published date should be in 1798, right? This is a real book. It's in the Congressional Archives. It's in the Boston Library. It was given to George Washington. He held on to it until his death. His current George Washington's library right now is basically a museum site that you can go in. It was recreated. That book is still there. So what I'm saying is, over 200 years ago, the entire New World Order plan to take over the world with these emergent ritualistic networks coming from Europe. It is from my deep research emanating first. This isn't even the first one, but a major publication. What has happened since is the Bavarian Illuminati has turned into several organizations, one of which is the Bilderberg Committee. The second one is the World Economic Forum. Those are the 2 major ones.
Yeah.
And so it is no surprise, just like the Bavarian Illuminati, that was a Germanic order, that the strings of power at the top are continually pulled by Germanic people. Klaus Schwab, we can go into his whole history, has a deep, deep history with the SS. Now,
Well, and what's his name? Soros.
Alexander Soros, exactly. So George, they all have a deep history. My whole point is this. This is not a new phenomenon. And there was people in government that were aware that there was this plan for decades and decades and decades.
I wonder if this book has been reprinted. I'd like to read this.
Yeah, that would be pretty
You
interesting.
can download a PDF of it right there, can't you?
Yeah, probably.
Go to the bottom.
Mm-hmm.
Look at you can
Yeah.
all those, you can put it on your Kindle.
You just have to read it like that.
You just have to read it like that, which I prefer to read it like that because that's a primary source document. I don't want a text version on a PDF.
Yeah, I want to read that. This is like we were talking about on previous podcasts too, because we were talking about, the Masons, and we were talking about how realistically the Freemasons are not a nefarious group, but we were talking about how obviously there have been people who have been involved in Masonry that are not good people, that have infiltrated, that have gone on to other organizations. The Illuminati is definitely an example of that because it's documented that they were infiltrating Masonic groups, sniping candidates, and basically trying to
Take over.
take over what Freemasonry was back then.
Right.
I don't think that they were successful, but like we were saying before the cameras were rolling too, it's like, who knows what that evolved into.
Right.
Like, yeah, the original organization is probably gone, but that's not to say that the lineage hasn't carried on to some other organizations, like you're saying, which I think is a potential reality.
And what that book describes is precisely what is just so coincidentally going on. They're taking over means of production. They're taking over currency. They want to take over governments by creating a stakeholder system whereby it wouldn't be governments, it would be trillionaires who are funding the governments, making the decisions at the top. And another version of that, what you can call that, is fascism. You can also call that communism. You can also call it a totalitarian state. There's many names for it, but it's basically all the same thing. You don't get to have any say in your life. We feed you, we clothe you, we shelter you. You will own nothing and you'll be happy. Go ahead.
Yeah. I was just listening.
Yeah.
Now, people say, sorry, because there's a lull here for a second, so I want to go in there. People will often say to me, like in 2010, when I read the Operation Lockstep, which is from a document by the Rockefeller Foundation, talking about a potential future scenario in which there's more top-down control because of pathogenetic threats upon humanity that only the governments can protect us from. And because of that, we have to make a more unilateral system that can respond faster to pandemic scenarios. And for that to happen, we need to be controlling all of it at the top. Okay, fine. That's 2010. Now, I'm in high school still in 2010. I'm reading that because I was deep even back then. But fast forward to 2020, that exact scenario comes along. Now, the first 2 weeks, I'm scared like everybody else. And Chad would agree with me. Like, we took all the necessary precautions.
It's on the inside.
On the inside.
Yeah.
But then as it rolls and then 2 weeks turns into 3 weeks and 4 weeks, I'm like, this is it. This is the big attempt. This is what I read about. And so people will look at me and say, well, why are you so pessimistic? Why are you so negative? Okay, I'm negative. I'm pessimistic. Sure. Okay. So if your killer comes to you and he makes a document that says, this is how I'm going to kill you all in 20 years. Is that pessimistic for me to be aware of that?
Right.
You're telling me that's pessimistic? Also, don't tell me I'm pessimistic. And I'm a little upset right now. I'm riled up right now because if you actually know me, like Chad knows me, I'm proactive every fucking day. Excuse me, my language. I'm like, Chad, we're gonna do this. We're gonna hustle this way. We're gonna beat it like that. Maybe we won't talk about the whole legal stuff we've been through, but he knows I took the initiative there. I helped him out there. And he has thanked me. And my point is that I'm proactive every single day of my life. Don't tell me I'm pessimistic. I'm more optimistic than you. You're the one with your head in the sand.
Yep.
If anyone's pessimistic, it's you, buddy. You take no initiative in your life. You wait for things to happen to you. I don't wait.
Mm-hmm.
So, where am I going with this? If you're upset that you don't have purchasing power, you don't know how your job status will look like, you don't know what's going on in this government, you're watching your president, he's talking funny like he's got a lobotomy. It's not an accident. Please look around you a little bit. It's actually productive for you and positive for you to face it and be strong about it instead of crumbling to the fear and acting like, well, I'm just being optimistic.
Yeah, I feel like with really can't go into detail here about it right now, but with the legal thing where somebody's saying you have to have this in order to perform, and we're like, no, we're not doing that. and then you stick it to them. I think if enough people do that, even if it's just a bunch of little ones like that people don't like that, and then it kind of slows their momentum a little bit. And obviously it happened, especially in New York, right around that time, where they had to back pay all the city workers that were laid off for not getting the shot. So it's like that kind of stuff. I mean, Texas was obviously a generally good place to
But
be.
what had to happen for them to get the back pay? It was somebody with the cojones had to say, no, this is happening. I'm not going to keep my head in the sand and just be positive thinking about it. I'm going to take an initiative, and that's how that happens. Sometimes you can be positive thinking. Sometimes you got to put boots on the ground.
Yeah, you got to be proactive.
Yeah, striking, suing. Those are the big ones.
Well, and that just goes back to what we were saying earlier. Is like, unfortunately, the majority of the population isn't going to do anything about tons of these subjects unless it physically directly affects them, which is kind of sad.
Which people are somewhat feeling more today, I'd say. There's definitely a higher percent.
A pushback on what y'all are talking about now.
Yeah.
Like with this whole thing kind of creeping its head around again. Everybody I know that was not like this a year or two ago is now like, hell no, we're not doing that.
Yeah.
Like, watch them do
it. Like normies, you know what I mean, are saying that. So I'm like, okay, we'll see what happens. I mean, I think Texas is going to fight it, but
did you see that Amazon or Whole Foods put in the Palm scanners in to Whole Foods to pay with your Palm now at especially on Wah Drive?
They're on all. I've been.
Actually, they're in all. Yeah, they are.
They're in all of them.
Because it was in Elgin too.
I have not seen that.
It's right next to the chip scanner.
Like the self
right next to the card
self checkout, or also maybe in the main lane.
And I just figured out how it works. It's really convenient. Look at this, okay? So you don't have to register for it. This is what happens if you're a first time user, and we can verify this. You put your palm on there. It does a biometric scan, takes your unique palm print and your temperature. You can look into that. It's in the fine print. Because this is government technology that's been used for decades. Now it's hitting the retail scene.
There's no chip.
There's no chip required. It's all biometric data.
It's like a fingerprint.
Right. So you do it for the first time. It provides you an ID. You don't need to carry an ID. It's got you in the system. And you scan your card. As soon as you do that, it connects your payment to your palm. So next time you go, forget about the card. You just do your palm and you're good.
Why would people want to do that?
Because it's so convenient.
It's like it's not like we have the tap thing on cards now. It's like just pull your card out and
you don't. Well, I mean, there's a lot of benefits.
They're like, oh, I don't want to. I'm so lazy. I don't want to pull a credit card out of my pocket.
You'll never lose your credit card. Right. It's cleaner. Right. You don't really actually have to touch it. I think you just put it above it.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
That's so crazy. Are they gonna
start never them wearing their little diapers too? Like, look at the subliminal messaging of that. Do you understand? Because I don't.
Is that what that's a picture of? There?
Yeah, nothing's an accident. She got her palm out. They got their diapers on. The messaging is: be clean, be sterile. This is the new world. This is fun now. We're safe now.
Oh, so that's it right there. That thing that looks like a drink holder.
Yeah, right here.
Yeah, that's it. And it's called One.
Yeah,
it's
Amazon
called One.
So going to Whole Foods today, just go into any of them and you'll see them there. I mean, it's scary to me. And the thing is, the funny thing too, and when was this? Oh, and that was April 21st of 21.
Okay, now go into the go Whole Foods scan checkout. Scanned exits, the article I sent.
Oh, yeah.
They're going next level with it, Ryan. It's not going to stop at the palms.
Oh, yeah.
Eventually, what will happen is to enter or exit the Whole Foods, you need to scan.
Whoa.
You can't. See, now that this is optional right now. If you want to do fast checkout, you just go right through there. It has your biometric data already. No cards necessary. You're in the system. But eventually, like in Australia, where this is already a thing, you can't enter or exit without scanning out. Because then they will look at your receipt and they'll be like, oh, what are you doing? Yeah.
And what are you scanning? Your hand or
It's the
something
it's the
else?
palm thing.
So do you think that they're doing this
Oh yeah.
to help with the social credit score type thing?
Yeah, that's the whole setup, man. Because see, we're looking at this like this is a new thing. They have this all laid out in China. They've been doing this for like 6-7 years in China, and nobody questions it because
It's China.
because it's China.
Well, yeah, no one's paying attention to anything that's what's crazy that I've noticed. So I don't know if I've told you guys this. My stepmother is Chinese,
Oh wow.
and she's only lived in the U.S. for maybe 5 years.
Uh-huh.
And so her daughter still lives in China, and my dad can speak Mandarin, so he keeps up with like
Oh.
the Chinese news, and they have the cable with all the Asian channels, and
Whoa.
so he's constantly keeping me up to date on like what's really happening in China, and
Whoa.
it blows my mind because like he is my connection to that. Like I don't pay attention to any of that, and most Americans don't.
No.
And the stuff that's happening over there to this day is nuts. And I can't believe that
It's
We-
full-fledged totalitarianism.
that we as Americans have no idea what's really going on in China.
But it's a techno totalitarianism, see, because you're completely under the thumb, but you have Netflix or you have these gadgets that are entertaining. So it's not as bad as, see, in my day, can I tell y'all a story? I'm going to calm down so we can actually make a clip and it can be like a nice clip that's calm energy, okay? I've already told this story to Chad. I have many stories like this, but back in the day when I was born, 92. Now, 85, late 80s, you have the Soviet collapse. Then early 90s, you really feel it in the industries. We don't have toilet paper. We don't have soaps. We don't have basic repairs on public housing. Doesn't exist. No milk, nothing. So what do the people do to wipe their butts? I'll explain. Because although the governments were not producing basic necessities and had no groceries in the store, they were still rampantly producing what? Pravda magazine, which translates to Truth magazine. So understand that the propaganda machine was in full force even during the collapse. So what we would do, we would mash up the newspapers because they were everywhere. We'd fold them, we'd mash them, we'd crumple them to soften them so that we could wipe our butts. And then sometimes if you get on a very inky page and you use that, you get the ink rolling down your thigh, and then the kids will call you an ink butt, and it was funny. It was happy making. It was simple. We had rusty swings. We had, we were just making the best out of what we had. But even then, Ryan, this is my point. Even then, there was 20 to 30% of the population, some of our neighbors, some of our acquaintances we didn't like too much, that would just identically parrot whatever they were reading on those newspapers. Because they were still wiping their butts with it, but see, they would read it beforehand, right? And they would say, they're right. We would be better if our government was still here. We would have food. This wouldn't be happening to our children right now. So that is a form of societal level Stockholm syndrome that I expect in this country, because psychology has not changed in the past 100 years. People will behave the exact same way. They will, 20-30% will support this. And it's going to get to China level status. And they'll say, well, I'm not doing anything illegal and my social credit score is really high. I don't know what's wrong with you. Oh, you can't fly? Oh, you can't visit your grandma in Hawaii? Well, that's okay. Just be good for the next month and you should be back up.
Well, they're already conditioning Americans in that sense, because I don't want to say exactly what I want to say because you guys will get censored, but they're already creating elite classes.
Clean classes,
Just elite.
elite
Pro-
classes.
If you think a certain way, if you look a certain way, if you are connected with certain groups,
Sure, yeah.
you're a protected class, which essentially makes you an elite class, which makes you feel more self-important because, oh, I'm a part of this community, and and it's all bullshit.
Mm-hmm. What
It's
is
a bunch of virtue signaling bullshit.
what is kind of the general thought about all of this within the Mason community?
Well, I can only speak for. I mean, it's hard to say. In Texas, obviously, we have a lot of. Texas is a huge state. So when you're in this inner cities, you're going to run into a lot. It's a mixed bag in masonry. You're going to run into conservatives and liberals pretty equally. But since Texas is such a big state, we have a lot of rural places where you're going to run into a lot of everybody in the lodge would be like a good old boy conservative.
Right.
So it's a mixed bag, but I think generally the majority of Masonic brothers that I've met, I'll say, are quote unquote awake and aware. Most of them, on things that are going on in the world and especially in the U.S. But it's a mixed bag, like anything else. Any big group, you're going to have all kinds of different people in there. One of our rules, though, is we're not supposed to talk about religion or politics
Right.
in a lodge setting. And that's to keep from, arguing amongst each other. But, outside of a lodge, if we go have some drinks, it's like, everybody starts talking about politics and religion. So it's
Right.
like you have an idea of who you're talking to, but we try to keep it fraternal. And, even if you disagree with somebody, we realize, like, you're my brother. We can agree to disagree and still be friends, which is refreshing in this
Yeah.
day and age because, like we were saying earlier, it's like we know tons of people that are like, oh, you think this way? Well, I never want to talk to you again, and I'm going to smear your name and yada, yada, yada.
Right.
So,
Yeah, it's funny to think back at the people, especially early 2020, who I would talk to, and then a couple of them just totally like blocking me or whatever, and I was good friends with them. And then to think back about what they were saying versus what I was saying, and I was like, you're wrong.
yeah.
You're
That's one
dead.
good thing about that I will say about Masonry and the people that I've met that are Masons is that I've met several people that I completely disagree politically with, but we're still good friends, and we can maintain that relationship and respect each other's views. So
Yeah.
I think that that's a great quality to have in this day and age.
I meant to ask you this earlier. What are some of the things that your dad has said to you about what he's seeing from the news in China?
Well, the craziest thing, I'm trying to remember how long ago this was. This was less than a year ago. Um, and it kind of came out of the blue. Like he told me, "Oh, we talked to your stepmom's daughter, and they're in Chongqing, China, which is like 8 hours, I believe, west of what's the ground zero?
Beijing, Shanghai, Hong Kong?
What was the ground zero for COVID?
Oh, ground zero, Wuhan.
Wuhan. Yeah, it's like 8 hours, I believe, west of Wuhan. I might be wrong, but I know it's roughly 8 hours away. Which to me, I'm like, that's not that far.
They're saying new viral something.
No, he was saying basically COVID had like resurfaced and gotten really bad.
Right.
But he was saying that it was because their weren't as good as ours, so it was kind of running rampant still, and they locked everybody down again.
Oh,
Right.
Jesus.
And this is less than a year ago,
I think
and
I
that kind of
read
blew my mind because I was like,
Right.
well, it's over here essentially, not
Everything,
that it's over, but to me, like, this is the thing to me. So I have a friend who's a firefighter.
Here in Houston?
Yeah, and obviously, all firefighters are trained for medical situations. So this guy, knows what he's talking about. And he told me this was like kind of during the peak of COVID. Not the peak, but right after, I'd say. We were talking about it. And he was like, look, man, it's bad right now, but what's going to happen is this virus is going to keep mutating and mutating and mutating and mutating. And the good thing is when these viruses mutate, yeah, they'll evolve to work their way around, medications and things like that. But every time that they evolve and mutate, they become weaker. So he was like, so my prediction is that this time next year, COVID is just going to be a different version of the flu. And yeah, it might affect some people worse than others, but the common flu can kill someone too.
Absolutely.
So I think that that's kind of where we're getting now. I've known a few people that have gotten it recently, and they said, yeah, it affected me for a couple days, but it was just like a bad flu, and it's not going to go away. So, and it is a flu virus. So that's kind of my take on it now. That's why I was shocked to see that in China, and they were like full on, like locking people up in their houses again.
Right.
I think you could only go to the grocery store once a week. And even then, he was saying that it was kind of like you had to place your order and then go pick it up, and your groceries would be sitting in a designated area, like either outside or in the front of the store, full masks. Like people walking around the street were wearing like biohazard outfits, like full on. And basically the people started rioting, and there was tons of like pretty wild riot videos that were not getting shown here in the US.
Yeah.
And it kind of blew my mind, because I was like, okay, this is crazy. Like, we're not seeing any of this. And
Yeah,
it's
not
like
only that-
thousands of people on the street rioting with the cops, getting sprayed with hoses, getting tear gassed, full on shields, and, the crowd going in. And we didn't see any of that here on the news.
Let's not forget to mention the part where they would actually use drones, because a lot of those apartment buildings in China are high rise. So they would send out government drones to check that people were still in their rooms.
Yeah. Oh, and they'll arrest you.
In their
Okay.
crumbling rooms.
Yeah, exactly. So okay.
Speaking of China too, so before my dad married my stepmom, he went and stayed out there. This was a year before COVID. He went and stayed out there for a year. My dad's well-traveled. He was in the Navy. He's been all over the world. He went and stayed out there for a year, and we would talk on the phone while he was gone, and he would just tell me about, like, how it's a lot different than the U.S. And he told me that, if you're there in public, you don't talk about politics. Because if you say the wrong thing, say you're at a restaurant and you're just having a casual conversation about politics with your relatives even, and someone overhears what you're saying and they don't agree with you,
They'll report you.
They can report you, and you can get arrested right then and there, and who knows when you're going to get out. And that's a common occurrence there.
Mm-hmm. And I can even pull up, we can do it if we have the time, pull up detained Chinese citizens before labor camp.
Yeah.
So they detain you, they lock you up, they do questioning.
This is something that bothers me too, because Americans take that.
And then we got Vox.
Americans take the freedom of speech totally for granted.
Yeah.
It's like we can go anywhere and say anything and talk to each other in a public setting, and you're not going to get arrested.
So you're seeing all these articles here about the Uyghurs, who are basically a slave class of ancient Muslims who just so happen to live all around that area that they're using in concentration camps. What they won't mention to you is they're using their own citizens, the average citizen that makes a couple of faux pas, they'll throw them in the concentration camps. I don't know why that's so hard to come by,
This
but
is here. There's one right here.
Well, and that's another thing. Americans want to sit here and complain about slavery from the past. It's like this is present day slavery.
Chinese
Absolutely.
woman sentenced to year in labor camp over tweet.
Yeah.
Is that good enough for you?
Yeah.
But hey, positive thinking. This won't happen here. Just positive thinking. That's all we need, right, Ryan?
Did you guys hear about?
Ryan, don't we just need some positive thinking, man?
No, we need action. This is one thing. Okay, this is one thing I've been complaining about. I don't like to complain a whole lot, but I am not one of these people. Like positivity, great. You know what I mean? But I've encountered some people, especially in the last 6 months. It's kind of reared its head again to where I'll be dealing with people in real life, and there will be not necessarily super bad things, but things that need to be worked out. And people will just ignore it, and they'll be like, "It's all good, man. Everything's great, man. Life is good."
Yeah.
Mm.
And it's like, pay attention to what's happening around you, dude. Like, you need to make a change, and you're just acting like nothing's happening. Like, that bothers me because
Mhm.
people will be like, "Oh, that person is so positive all the time," and it's like, that's fake, dude.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Like, that's fake. They're
Yeah.
in denial,
Right.
and they're being like, "Oh, just because I'm positive all the time, it's all good." It's like, no, it's not, dude. You cannot deny the material world. You cannot deny things that are happening physically in front of you.
Yeah.
It's like you gotta. It's like, yeah, being positive is great, but when it's time to take action, it's time to take action.
What is the psychology of that? Because I know what it is.
I mean, what do they call it? I think it's just straight up denial of reality.
Because
you know?
why? Because it's painful
Yeah.
to actually be involved in your own rescue.
Yeah. Well, and I think a lot of it is fear too. You know, like they don't want to go through hard times, so they
Absolutely.
just lie to themselves.
Well, yeah, exactly.
I knew this guy. This was years back, but we knew this guy who was having really a rough time with life. I don't think he was a bad guy. I don't talk to this person anymore. I used to be pretty close to them, but they were going through some major issues with drug abuse. They were having some family issues. And we were trying to help this guy out. And I realized how bad it was one day when this guy told us, like, yeah, man, when anything bad happens to me, I just have a mantra. And I say, I do not accept this as my physical reality.
There you go.
And I'm like, that's the worst possible thing that you could do. You know what I mean? It's like,
Yeah.
if
Yeah,
something
if you use
bad's
it.
happening to you and you're not accepting it and trying to like correct the problem, that's not going to make things better. It's going to make them worse. You know what I mean? And that bothers me when I see people do that, because I'm like, man, you're living in a false reality, and you could totally change the situation,
Right.
but you're just lying to yourself and you don't want to.
Positive thinking is actually being like, oh, but I can make this better. That's positive thinking.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's a big difference between what, like you just said, denial and positive thinking. Positive thinking is bad things can happen, but I can overcome it.
Yeah. Positive thinking should create positive action.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Like,
Otherwise, it's what?
yeah. Positive thinking alone is worthless. There has to be action with it, you know?
Definitely, yeah. I feel like what that guy was trying to say, where he's like, I don't know, accept this physical reality, sounds like a get out easy kind of card.
Yeah.
Where maybe he said he was struggling with drugs or something. I don't
Yeah.
know. Maybe he's having a bad day because of that, and he's like, I don't accept that. But you're not going to get better if you don't do that. I think another phrase that maybe we've talked about, but rather than saying I don't accept this as my physical reality or something like that, I like the phrase "be here now."
Yeah.
Because I feel like if you're in a super bad situation or something's just stressing you out, or you're thinking about something that will stress you out, just like, wait, I'm right here, right now. I'll get to that point. And actually, forward thinking makes that forward thing sound a lot worse. Or like, I don't know, just stuff like that. You take on all the weight of that bad thing that's in the future and put it on you in that moment, when even in reality, when you go to that future moment, all of that stuff just happens as it normally would,
Yeah.
like in time. And it's much less egregious.
Well, what bothers me too is a lot of these people that I have directly had these situations with, they're not stupid. Like, they're smart. Most of them are spiritual to a certain degree. And it bothers me because I'm like, look, man, you know what you need to do. Just do it. But they won't, because they think, oh, if I just think positive. And it's like, no, dude, that's not, You know, I tell people, I'm like, look, man, if you have any belief in any type of spiritual philosophy whatsoever, you should think about the fact that, like, why are you here in this material world to begin with? You know, to me, I'm like, this is a game.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and every single waking moment that you're alive is a test,
Mm-hmm.
and you're being judged on every action and non-action. You know what I mean? So it's like, and to me, I'm like, you want to beat the game, you know, so that at the end of your days and you're judged, they, whoever's judging you is like, okay, man, you did it. You know what I mean? Not just you sat there and did nothing while you were getting this test presented to you. You know,
Totally.
everything's a test, in my opinion.
I agree.
Okay, let me. Can I ask y'all a question? Because you just mentioned be here now. Okay. So sometimes, if you're facing a lot of issues, you want to compartmentalize so you can tackle things one on one and
Yeah.
not stretch yourself thin and go crazy. And then so you might say, okay, there might be a bad thing coming, but I'm gonna see what I can do right now and how I feel about it. That's good. That's good. But let me just point out this. The individuals who are doing these to people have been planning it in advance, not just a year in advance, not 10 years in advance, but centuries in advance.
Yeah.
So they're not doing your nice hocus pocus be here now thing. No offense.
Oh, but it's so different than that.
Explain to me.
No, I was just be here now is more of a mindset. It's like focusing your mindset on your inner spirit. It's not about planning
Okay.
because you have to plan all that shit. I'm just saying, like, if you're struggling mentally on something,
Right.
and you're stressed about all these forward things, and if you need mental respite in order to focus on what you're doing and keep calm
You
and
gotta
really,
be here now. Gotcha.
yeah. So it's not that.
Yeah, you
Okay.
have to be present.
Well, okay, good. And I'm glad we just delineated those two things because I believe that the be here now thing that helps you in the moment, right? And then also we should have this is easier said than done. I'm not I realize that a lot of people don't have the psychological strength to do what I'm about to say, but even though bad things are coming, it's your choice to be happy still. You don't have to be depressed because bad things are coming. And that's hard to do
That's
to
a be here
separate
now.
those two things.
Yeah.
Yes, okay, exactly. So when I come at people and I say, hey, but are you aware of this? Are you aware of that? They are mentally trying to protect themselves because they already are so brittle psychologically that a little bit of extra will just mess them up their whole days.
Yeah.
They can't separate things like that. So, and that's psychological fortitude that you need to train yourself to be that strong. That's easier said than done.
A good example for me of be here now is like when I'm doing all the legal stuff, where I'm getting all this evidence, I'm worried, you talking to people, writing shit down, making sure you have everything lined up. It's very stressful. A lot of money on the line, personal money. There, all this stuff going into one, and then I'm like playing a gig, and I'm thinking about that, and it's taking away from me, and I'm just like, I'm fucking so worried about
Yeah.
this thing. That's when a be here now is like, no, stop. You're just right here in the gig. You cannot do anything right this second about what you're worrying about. Same like when you're going to bed too. You're like, okay, I'm going to bed, and then you're in bed and you're like, fuck, there's so much. It's like, stop.
Yeah.
You literally cannot do anything, and you literally need to sleep so that you can attack those things that you're worried about tomorrow.
Right.
So it's that, it's
And you want to be in a positive state of mind before you go to sleep,
absolutely, yeah,
because that can affect you
yeah.
astrally. You know.
Oh, that just reminded me that we have to talk about this, and I may as well just bring it up so we don't forget it. Before we started rolling, you talked about getting into alchemy, and it's such a diversion, but I'm gonna forget if we don't bring it up, and I'm so curious if you can give us the lowdown on what you're doing, on what you're talking about.
Um, well, yeah, I can talk about it a little bit. There's a lot of stuff that I can't say.
Just
Um,
just whatever you can.
So, alchemy is a spiritual path. And the cool thing about so there's like some loopholes with some of these secret societies. For example, I can say this because at this point, a bunch of this material has been printed. So specifically with like the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn, for example, because a bunch of the Outer Order material had been printed by Crowley and Rigardi. Um, Now this stuff is not secret because it's out there. You know what I mean? The general public can pick up a book and figure things out. So I don't know if we talked about the Reformation of the Golden Dawn. I think we talked about it a little bit. I'd like to get into it again because I could tell you guys some crazy stuff that I found out recently. Um, but basically, there were, I guess, short story, there was a reformation of the Golden Dawn. Only a certain few branches of the Golden Dawn groups that exist now were part of the Reformation. Basically, what happened is the Third Order was reformed. The curriculum from the Third Order was bumped to the Second Order. The curriculum from the Second Order was bumped to the First Order. This was because a bunch of the curriculum had been leaked by it being printed in books. So one of the cool loopholes now is that since a lot of this stuff has been printed, now it's really no secret if you do your research that in a lot of the second orders of these Golden Dawn groups, there is alchemy and Enochian magic. Now, the loophole is that since a lot of it has been printed, you can talk about some of it. The only thing that I can't talk about is what we do with it specifically in the second order. So it's like I can talk about it because it's been printed, but I can't talk about like what we actually use it for and what we do with it. Now with alchemy, for me personally, and I can talk about this because it's not part of my second order work. This is kind of like an extracurricular thing that I'm doing. Currently, I'm learning the process of distillation and basically making what's called planetary tinctures out of herbs. So there's herbs that correspond to the 7 ancient planets, and these herbs are used like medicines. You know what I mean? So you could take the herb, you could take the tincture, and it's just a drop or two of the tincture under the tongue, and it's essentially a spiritual medicine, if you will, an elixir. And you can take them on the days of the week that correspond to the planet as a supplement, or you can take them before actually invoking one of these planetary energies. But basically, that's what I'm working on now is creating these elixirs, if you will.
Whoa. Are you able to say what herb creates each elixir?
Yeah, there's a huge list. I was actually
Okay.
thinking about bringing that list with me so we could talk about it because I don't have them all memorized, but
So there's a lot.
there's a lot. Yeah, there's a lot of options for each planet. Like,
Gotcha. It's not 7.
No,
Okay.
there's I would say at least 10. If you look at some of these lists, at least 10 herbs per planet that you can kind of choose from, and
Oh, cool.
because a lot of them aren't readily available, but some of them are. You know what I mean? Like the first tincture I ever made years ago with my old tutor was a solar tincture, and we made it out of rosemary. And the process is pretty neat. My old tutor was a chemist, so he was a natural alchemist. And basically, what you do to make a tincture is you distill your alcohol first, and then the way that we do it is we would do. So, for example, the first time that I made a solar tincture with my old tutor is he distilled the alcohol before we did the process, so he had the alcohol ready. And In true alchemy, you should make 7 distillations. They call them eagles. So you need to distill 7 times to purify the alcohol or the spirit, right? That's where the word spirits comes from for alcohol, is from alchemy. But basically, what we did is we took the herb and we took the spirit, and we had it in a ritual setting, and we did a solar invocation. We actually charged the herbs in the middle of the invocation, and then mixed them with the spirit. Gave it a couple shakes. After the ritual was done, we wrapped it up. I took it home and put it in my incubator. I have a egg incubator because you guys know I breed reptiles. So I kept it in the incubator for a certain amount of time. Then I took it back to my tutor, and basically he separated it. This is where the whole salt, sulfur, mercury thing comes into play. When you're making a tincture, you basically have the mercury and the sulfur together, and you separate the salt. The salt would be the dross that comes out of the tincture. So we had the rosemary in the jar with the spirit, the alcohol, right? You kind of strain that through cheesecloth or something, and you separate the rosemary, which would be the material, from the spirit. But in this case, it's the mercury and sulfur together. And then you burn the salt or the dross to white ash, and then you recombine them. It's the whole solve et coagula. That's what that is.
Yeah.
Taking apart and recombining. And the idea is that you're taking the spirit or essence of whatever herb that is and purifying it repeatedly through the process of alchemy, and then ingesting that and using it as basically a type of medicine elixir. It's another path of spiritual attainment, I guess you could say.
Wow.
Some people, a lot of modern day alchemists, they do just the alchemy part. They don't do the ceremonial magic part with it. But as a Golden Dawn magician, we automatically do the ceremonial magic part with the physical lab alchemy part. There's some good YouTube channels out there, believe it or not, on alchemy. I can't remember the name of this one guy that I've been following recently, but he's got a really good alchemy channel on YouTube. He's a apprentice of a guy named Robert. I believe his name's Robert Bartlett. He wrote a book called Real Alchemy. And it's a phenomenal book on alchemy that you can get.
Wow.
Super advanced. It's from beginner to advanced, but by the time you get to the end of that book, it's super advanced. He wrote a second and third book too. Yeah, that's the book right there, Real Alchemy. He has a second book called The Way of the Crucible. That's his second book.
I was also gonna say
The Way of the Crucible is a very, very advanced alchemical book.
The Way of the Crucible is the same author.
Same author, yeah, and he has a third one.
That's the Phoenix from the Ashes.
So cool.
Yeah.
Art. The art is awesome.
Yeah, those books are great. If anybody out there is interested in alchemy, I highly recommend that book right there, Real Alchemy. It's one of the best out there. But yeah, this
I'm
guy's
on it.
still alive, Robert Allen Bartlett.
That's cool.
And I think he still does like in-person alchemy courses that you can go take. I'm not sure where he's based at in the U.S. I think he's somewhere in the Midwest. I might be wrong on that. But the guy whose YouTube channel I've been watching, he's like our age. And he was an apprentice of this guy. And his YouTube channel's actually really good. Like, I was kind of surprised.
Wow.
I was gonna mention Manly P. Hall. If we can look up Manly P. Hall, it should be on archives.org. Alchemy manuscripts. Illustrated alchemy manuscripts should be on archive. That should be it. Yeah, click on that.
Yeah, and so
I feel
there's
like I
there's a
have this.
difference too. I do want to say this. There's a difference. Oh, that's cool.
What was that first?
That looks like the
What is that, Ryan?
that looks like the triangular book of Saint Germain, but I don't think it is. There is a difference too. I do want to make this statement. There's a difference in um, lab alchemy and spiritual alchemy. Like you should use
What
them.
are we looking at right here?
You should use them in tandem, because there is alchemy that there is spiritual alchemy processes that can be done with no lab equipment necessary.
Do you recognize any of that,
But we combine them.
Ryan?
I'm not sure what book this is.
This is Manly P. Hall's collection of alchemical manuscripts, spells.
Jeez.
I don't know what language that is. Do you know?
I don't know what that is.
I've seen that, but in different states. I will say that. I've seen those in different states. Okay. Now, I believe because we were talking about advanced alchemy.
Damn, dude.
This is a very intense book of spells
That we can't.
that we can't even read. That Manly P. Hall wrote. Okay, so
What?
I would say
I'm sure that there's a translation of this somewhere.
I'm sure. Now, I would love to find a translation or maybe somebody that you know from your line of work, Ryan, maybe in the same alchemical circles you're in that perhaps are familiar with this.
I'm sure I know a guy who has a translation of this that we could like text right now and get, but
yeah.
that looks like
So, yeah.
type in like Saint Germain's triangular book. I think that's what it's called.
Now, who is Manly P. Hall?
It does look like that now that you just said that.
Right, because again, we're saying these things because some people might not even know.
Yeah, I think that's what we
Is
were
that
actually looking at, maybe.
Saint Germain. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I thought it
I see.
was.
Okay, so now that's good that we know that.
Okay.
Yeah, so that book is about. It's basically got some magical rituals in it. There's 3 rituals in that book from what I can remember. I can't remember what they're all for. I think one is to live forever, one is to gain riches, and one is to gain like knowledge, maybe. I can't remember.
There you go.
But I do know someone who is heavily versed on that particular book.
There you go. And there's a lot of pop culture of this stuff going around. I'll give you an example. A beautiful young lady that I was briefly seeing was a self-professed witch. Okay. And her version of doing this, now she wasn't familiar with any of that stuff, but what she would do, very basic
Doesn't know
version.
anything about any of this. No, I'm kidding. Totally joking.
I know. But what she would do is just basically sex affirmations. So what she would do is she would set up a little, seance, a little feather here, a little light here, basic stuff. And she would, in that circle, she would masturbate. And then at the point of climax, she would put all her intentions into that orgasm.
Okay. Sex magic.
Sex magic. Just basic version of sex magic. And I can tell you right now, she went back to the drawing board after what I did with that situation. Okay? Because I saw her trying it on me. And then I looked her dead in the eyes and I said no. And I even said to her, you don't know what kind of powers you're even playing with.
Yeah.
And you don't know that I'm aware of these powers and it ain't gonna work, okay?
Well, and yeah, you shouldn't. You shouldn't. So, this is not the rule for all of these groups, but with Golden Dawn magic, especially, it's like Golden Dawn magic works for practical purposes, but really it was created for spiritual enlightenment. And that has nothing to do with anybody else. Like, it's all for you. You know what I mean? So, and in the Golden Dawn tradition, you're not really trying to alter the actions of other people.
Right.
It has to do with you personally. You know what I mean? So I'm one of these people that I don't with witchcraft, it's different. With witchcraft, they're definitely trying to affect the material world and mess with other people's actions. And to me, I mean, I don't judge people, but to me, that's not my thing. I think it's like I think everyone is where they're at. I think we've talked about this in the past too. I think everyone is where they're at for a reason.
All right.
And doing what they're doing for a reason because it's their personal lessons that they need to learn in life and they're where they're at because of that. You know what I mean? So I don't think that it's my job to try to mess with their life. You know what I mean? So I'm not an advocate of any of that type of stuff where you're using magic to affect someone else.
Mhm.
You know, now healing, that's different. But, trying to control someone or
Yeah.
that's not, I don't think that that's wise. To
I've
do.
personally never tried sex magic, and I don't have that proof for my own life where I could say it really works or not. I tend to think that because a lot of people practice it, that it does work, or even just the power of suggestion. But this is the question I have for you: isn't the whole point of alchemy not so much to create the philosopher's stone or chemically, but to realize it in your own mind using chemical conduits?
Yeah, so the Philosopher's Stone is not. So this is super controversial in occult circles. The Philosopher's Stone is not. It's like, yeah, there is. You can create a physical Philosopher's Stone, quote unquote, right? But that's not the point. The Philosopher's Stone is inside of you.
Right.
The kingdom of heaven is inside of you. And that's why I was trying to make the distinction earlier about look, there's physical lab alchemy, and that is a valid path to spiritual enlightenment, but really it's about spiritual inner alchemy.
Right.
That's the real goal. The Philosopher's Stone is inside of you.
Right.
It's all about self transformation and cultivating the different spiritual bodies that we have, outside of our physical body.
What is the tantric sex book called? The main one?
I don't know. I'm
Uh,
not too versed on the Eastern stuff.
well, whatever. I feel like it always comes up as like a joke or something like that. But
Sutra?
yeah, the Kama Sutra.
Kama Sutra, yeah.
Is that considered sex magic?
I mean, I would think
considered.
it is, yeah.
Because it's about, like getting to that heightened state and
It's
then
about eye contact and intention, and
Yeah. I mean, that makes sense to me.
Yeah, it's about like from what I know, I don't know a lot, but I know it's like eye contact, breathing exercises, intention, So I would think, yeah, that's a type of sex magic, and it's all over the place. I mean, you can look at the old Hindu paintings and art where you'll see like the guru or whatever with a chick like straddling him.
Right.
And he's like, attaining enlightenment while it's happening. It's like, they've been doing that stuff for thousands of years. But it is a super secret art. I know in the Western tradition, it's like a very, very high teaching that you're not supposed to mess with. Just like, quote unquote, demonic evocation. It's like those are all higher teachings that you need to have attained things before you attempt any of that stuff.
Well, the really epic thing about it, Ryan, is if you just knew the bare minimum about sex magic and how they do it, and how even when they have volunteers, they put the volunteers in certain circles or geometrical shapes, and then they have the main person in the middle doing the main ritual. So
I think it'll still work, yeah.
So okay, but guess what? Who's that guy? The guy at the Academy Awards, the gentleman who was sexually fluid or whatever, that did the whole demonic ritual, and
Oh, I know who you're
he
talking
had the
about.
thing.
Yeah.
It was
Rapper?
like the white guy. He was like dressed up like the devil, and the song kind of sucked.
Oh, Sam Smith.
Sam Smith.
Yeah.
Sam Smith was doing a sex ritual in front of everybody.
Yeah. Well, he was symbolically doing
Yeah,
it.
what they do behind the scenes, right?
Yeah.
Or I'll give you another example. Right in front of everybody, Taylor Swift. Before her concert started, she had her little Red Riding Hoods go on the stage before the music went on. They go in a circle and do the little ritual.
I haven't seen that
You
yet.
haven't
we
seen
should
that
watch
stuff? If you can find that.
So I'll tell you one thing. I'm not.
The point is they're doing it in front of everybody.
I have a friend that we had a conversation about this very topic one day,
Yeah.
and he told me about something that he had done, and he had great success with it. He did some sigil magic that he had mixed with some sex magic.
And how do you do that?
So basically, I mean, long story short, is he took a I don't remember what his exact intention was. I don't even remember if he told me, but he figured out what his intention was, figured out which type of sigil he wanted to use for his specific intention, and then basically him and his wife,
Banged it out.
did the deed. But while they were doing this, he had the sigil out where he could focus his intention into it, and then he said within 12 hours everything went exactly as planned.
Ooh.
And what was his intention? Can we?
I don't remember if he even told me.
Okay.
But it was just that this guy
Okay.
knows what he's doing,
Tantalizing.
and it was interesting to hear him say how successful it was. So I mean, I do think that it's,
Can we get a jazz club out of that?
Yeah.
Can we come into a jazz club?
Now, see that's very tantalizing what you're saying, because see
maybe
Can
you
we
know?
come into the ownership of
Yeah,
a jazz club?
Maybe.
see because I have a little voice in my head right now that literally said to me, it said, well, maybe it doesn't have to be evil. You can just really focus it on a good intention, and it can do a good thing.
No, yeah,
and then you
totally.
can back out, and it doesn't have to turn demonic.
No, well, and that's the way it should be. Like, that's what I mean. Like, sex magic should definitely not be used to control someone else. Like, it should be used for the highest of intentions. You know what I mean? Whether it's spiritual transformation, or to help someone out through healing, or to help someone out of a bad situation. You know what I mean? Like, it should totally be used for that type of... All ceremonial magic should be used for that type of stuff.
But
in
then
my
again, Ryan, you're having, you're making whoopee with your girl, and you're channeling that into a sigil. There's something about that to me that doesn't feel like it's a right hand path. It feels like a left hand path endeavor to me.
Well,
Why does it feel like that to me?
I mean, it could be categorized as that, I guess. But the whole right-hand path, left-hand path thing, to me, is not a thing.
Okay.
I mean, it is, obviously, but... So I'll go back to the Golden Dawn. It's like, so in the Golden Dawn system, the grade system is based off of the Tree of Life, and you start at the bottom, and you go up. You go up to the 9th. You start outside of the tree, but in the grade of 1 equals 10, you go on to the sphere of Malkuth, which is the bottom of the Tree of Life, which represents terrestrial Earth, the 4 elements combined. And then in the grade of 2 equals 9, you go up to Yesod, which corresponds to the moon, but it's still on the middle pillar or middle path. But then you kind of start ping-ponging around. So you go over to the left-hand path, and 3 equals 8 to the sphere of Hod, which is corresponding to Mercury and the water grade. And it's the first time you, quote-unquote, step onto the black pillar or the left-hand path. Then you go over to the grade of 4 equals 7, which corresponds to Venus and the fire grade. And this is the first time you step on the, quote-unquote, white pillar, which is the right-hand path. But basically, the reason that you're doing this is because you realize that everything on the Tree of Life, which represents the 3 pillars, the right-hand path, the middle path, and the left-hand path, that it's all part of the same thing. And throughout all of these Western mystery schools, you're taught equilibrium, balance, and you're taught that basically neither side is good or evil, but they need to be balanced constantly.
So if neither side is good or evil, let's take somebody like
Well, either in excess
right.
is bad.
Okay.
Right, the right hand path in excess is bad. The left hand path in excess is bad because you're not maintaining balance. That's what I mean. So it's like going back to the conversation we were having about like positive thinking versus positive action. If you put these things on the tree of life, positive thinking would be on the right hand path. Positive action would be on the left hand path. The balance is maintaining both of them.
I see what you're saying.
You know what I mean? Because the right hand path is more with like, they call it white magic and, it's more of the fluffy stuff. And then the left hand path, they always say it's black magic, but it's not really like, yeah, there is black magic for sure. And there are people using it for evil intentions. But when you really understand this, I don't know if I've talked about this with you guys. I have a friend here in town who I met through tattooing. And actually, we should try to get him on the podcast one day. He's a member of the Temple of Set.
Let's have him.
He's a member of a handful of left-hand path schools, but very smart guy. And as soon as we met in person and I was tattooing him, I was like, okay, let's talk about this. Let's talk about this. You know what I'm into. I know what you're into. Let's talk about it. And I love meeting someone that's from the quote unquote left-hand path tradition that actually knows what they're talking about. Because I was like, well, what do you think about all of this like satanic hype and black magicians? And he was like, dude, they're stupid. He was like, if you truly know about the left-hand path and the tree of life, the right-hand path and the left-hand path both terminate at the top of the tree of life. Into the top of the tree of life is basically a triangle. The top three spheres of the tree of life are what they call the supernals. Sphere 1, 2, and 3. Kether, Chokma, and Bina are what they're called. And so Kether is the top. Chokma is the top of the right-hand path. Bina is the top of the left-hand path. But they all terminate to the top, the Godhead, right? And I was like, exactly. And he was like, yeah, anybody that's in the left-hand path needs to realize that the left-hand path and the right-hand path meet.
It goes back to God.
They meet at the top of the same mountain.
Right.
You know what I mean? And that's the thing, too. You hear this a lot in occult circles. It's like all paths lead to the top of the same mountain.
Right.
Ultimately, if you're following a valid path.
So how would we categorize let's say Maria Vanderbilt, Anderson Cooper's mother, or Maria Abramovich, spirit cooking, the stuff she did with Jay-Z, that kind of stuff? Is that bad magic? Is that good magic?
I don't know about Anderson Cooper's mom. But I do think that Abramovich is a bit shady. I would love to have a personal conversation with her.
Yes.
And actually, like, get into the nitty gritty.
There's nothing. So look, she makes hyper realistic cakes that then people go around.
That's a cake?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they eat them.
Yeah, watch.
The insides are.
Yeah, so I got into it with somebody.
There you go, blood magic. Yeah, go ahead.
When this was all happening about, it's just art.
Right.
And I'm like, no, it's not. That is not just art. You know what I mean? That's not performance art. I don't care what anyone says. That's ritualistic. And I don't care if it's symbolic or not. Like, it's still happening. It's like y'all said, like, even if you don't know a lot about sex magic, but you're still putting on a symbolic representation of it, it's still going to have some kind of effect.
Oh, see, the first thing they do is they go for the titties.
Eesh.
That's straight up gross,
Dude,
man.
it's frightening. Oh, what? Oh, come on, bro.
They
Was
went,
that?
They went for the puss.
Yeah, it's so
That's crazy.
weird.
I've never seen this.
Yeah, and they go around, they give celebrities
I'd seen them
parts
like
to eat. You see?
I'd seen them eating food.
Oh,
Whoa, look at that dude.
Look at that dude.
God.
And see
Yeah,
how the
that's
insides
gross.
are all
Yeah,
red.
that's-
So there's a great show on Netflix called Is It Cake?
Is this on YouTube?
This is BitChute.
No, this is not on YouTube no more. It was.
I've never seen this.
But there's a good show on Netflix called Is It Cake?
Yeah, I've
And-
seen that, yeah.
Should put this on Is It Cake?
Yeah.
No, they would kill it. Metaphorically speaking.
What freaks are here?
Yeah.
I
and
mean,
see,
if-
this is what I mean. It's like
If
this-
it's good
this
cake,
is-
that's one thing.
If it's cooked cake, hey.
You know I like that cake.
yeah, that's.
You know I like a little cake on her.
And you see, they're
Look at that.
Oh,
look at
look
that,
at
man.
that.
It's weird.
Yeah, that's.
Oh, it's performance art.
That's not. No, that's.
And then you collect the head, and then you play
That's
soccer
freaking
with
red
it.
velvet.
That's straight up ghoulish. Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, I don't think that.
Crema.
What would your left path guy say about Marina?
Was that at
I don't know
Mocha?
what he would say. That's what I mean. We should
I would
we should
love
have
to
him
have
on
him
a
on.
we should have him
Rosebud
on a
cakes.
podcast, like both of us together, and
Let's
do
schedule
some
it.
back and forth.
Let's seriously talk about it.
Yeah, he does a podcast as well. I'll show. I did a show with him a while back. I'll show y'all his channel. I don't want to
Okay.
name him publicly because I don't know if he wants me to
Okay.
put him on blast. But
Secret.
yeah, he might. I think he'd be willing to come do a podcast with you guys. And he's super smart, like
Good.
fun to talk to. It's cool to get like
Should
see
we
it from the other
also
side. You know what I mean?
bring our satanic priestess,
I don't know if I want to
Casey-
be on a podcast with her.
Casey Wittershins?
You don't want to see Wittershins, bro?
She
You saw that one? Did you see that?
yeah,
one?
he watched it.
yeah.
Okay, cool.
I think it was the one that y'all did right before the last one I did with y'all. And
Okay.
I watched it.
It
and
was
I was
68.
Like,
Or,
yeah,
What was yours? 69?
69.
Yeah,
I
hers
think
was
she
68.
Yeah, she
Yeah.
was 67 or 68 for sure.
Because I just clicked on it earlier before you guys got here today. I was actually showing
Yeah, I didn't.
Mark Simmons Jr.
I wasn't
Casey.
impressed.
Yeah.
I think a lot of these like. This is going to be controversial, and I might even have people try to attack me because of it. But I think a lot of these like Satanists and Luciferians, I think that they're just hurt on the inside,
Right.
Yeah.
and they're lashing out.
I mean, that was clear. She
they're-
even said that.
Yeah,
they're,
she said that.
they're rebelling, and
It's all that.
it's fine. You know, that's
Yeah.
what I mean. It's like to me, everybody is exactly where they're supposed to be and going through their own experience
Right.
because they need to learn a lesson from it.
Right.
Has nothing to do with me. So more power to them. But I don't. I keep that type of thing away from.
There's no light in it, and I'm sure I said it on the last one, but because right when we did that podcast, like a day later, a week later, something like that, I was right over there by Platypus Brewing or whatever, Taco Deli, and I saw a woman wearing Jesus loves you, so I don't have to. And I was like, man, I just hate that with an upside down cross on it. And I was like, I just hate that sentiment of you just hate people or you have no love in you or something like that.
It's a lot of It's a lot
And,
of.
and then also you're wearing it on your shirt and it's
Yeah.
like, get over it.
Well, they're just that's the thing is that they're just exuding negative energy.
yeah.
Right.
And it's funny because, like, I don't ever encounter that. But I think that it's because of my personal spiritual practice and
That's true. We don't really-
evolution. It's like that stuff just automatically is not in my sphere of sensation because it's not allowed to be. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
yeah, I think a lot of them are hurt. It is mind blowing to me though, like how many. I think we've talked about this before, like how it's hip and cool and edgy, and now there's like multiple businesses in Houston that are straight up like kind of advertising themselves as satanic.
Can you name
Yeah.
Back Pew?
So
That one?
Brash Brewing
Okay.
has done 1 or 2
Oh,
black masses
was she
wow.
talking about that?
Yeah.
at
I
the brewery.
I think Casey was talking about that.
And I had several people tell me, and I know I'm not bashing Brash, but that's not something that I'm going to attend. You know, I have good friends that have worked there that are brewmasters and things like that and bartenders, but it's not for me. You know what I mean? I'm not going to go attend something like that. And I had tons of people say, oh, it's just same thing. Oh, it's just art, dude. It's just performance. And I'm like, no, it's not. It's a ritual. You know what I mean? And it's it's
People really knew the ritual too. Like they're probably doing a light version of the ritual with the desecration of the
Yeah.
sacraments, because that's what I was showing our friend earlier this morning. I was like, dude, the ritual is insane, where they're like ejaculating into a chalice with Eucharist in it, and like all this insane stuff.
well, there's Brash. There's a coffee house pretty close to where I live. It's on Ella and 34th, I believe, called Luce.
Luce. I know what you're going at, but I know
It's
exactly
an upside down pentagram for their logo.
Is it like all white, like super clean, like super
I haven't been in
high?
there.
I feel like I had coffee there because
Luce.
one of my friends who's
Yeah.
like a coffee connoisseur guy. I'm 100% sure I went there.
And everyone, I was like, look at this place. And everyone's like, oh, that's not Lucifer, and that's not an upside down. I'm like, it's an upside down pentagram,
Damn, if
and
that,
it's called Luce or Luce. Lucifer. You know what I
Lucifer,
mean?
right.
Like,
yeah,
and then there's also Black Magic. What's it called?
Black Hole?
Magic Social Club, the new venue, music venue.
Really?
And then there's also Trip 6 music venue,
This is like the Salem Renaissance.
which is 666.
Which one? Say it again.
Trip 6.
Trip 6.
Yeah. And I know the guy who runs it. Like, great guy.
Or
But-
60 Vines is total. I mean, I'm sorry, but
Yeah, there it is. Upside down
Yeah.
pentagram.
I did not go here. Oh, that's weird. I've never seen this.
Yeah, I know the guy that runs
I mean,
Trip 6.
Voodoo Donuts.
Voodoo.
I know the guy that runs Black Magic Social Club or whatever it's called.
Where is that?
It's like over in this area, kind of, I think.
I wonder if I've seen
And
that.
they're both good guys, but that's what I mean. They're
Great website.
they're pushing that image simply because it's edgy.
Right.
But I'm like, man, symbols have meaning, whether you want them to have the energy that they have attached to them or not. Like, to me, that's not my thing.
What do you think about Rudyard's? Have you been? I'm not saying it's necessarily satanic, but it seems more Masonic.
Rudyard's?
Uh huh.
Really?
the founder was a
Actually,
Freemason.
sorry.
Was it not?
Maybe more satanic than Masonic. might have messed up because I was going around reading all this stuff in Rudyard's.
We can look it up. Founders of Rudyard's.
Really? I didn't know anything
They
about
have
it.
sigils and pentagrams all over the place.
They did, yeah.
Really?
I'll be right back.
And
yes.
a nice white and black checkered floor.
Well, that, right.
What?
That's light, but
I've played shows there.
and I mean it's cool. I love it because there's good
Look,
comedy.
funny thing I'll bring this up about Black Magic Social Club is that, and again, love the guy who owns it. Got friends that work there. It's just not my thing. But what I think is ironic about it is when they were opening up, I saw a bunch of photographs of the inside. And I'm not sure where it's at inside the club because I haven't been there, but they have pictures of like famous occultists on the wall, like Crowley, and I think there's a picture of Anton LaVey. But there's a picture of a woman named Dion Fortune in there. And Dion Fortune wrote a book basically about defense against black magic.
Oh wow.
So I'm like, you have a huge portrait of a woman who was completely against black magic inside of a place called Black Magic Social Club.
Interesting.
And that just shows like the ignorance of what it all really is. It's just to those people, it's more of a hip, trendy, edgy thing, and I'm like, okay, and like I say, it's like people are going to do what they're going to do. I don't really care, but personally, I'm not into it.
Yeah.
I'm not into it because, like I say, all symbols have powers attached to them. Images have, energies
Totally.
that they carry with them.
Rudyard's has insane food.
Yeah, I used to go to Rudyard's a lot. Oh, Anthony Callio's the cook again?
Chef Anthony Callio.
I used to play in bands with him when we were young.
Oh, that's cool.
He sang in a punk rock band that my old punk rock band used to play with a lot. The name of his band back then was Los Pinches.
That's funny. Yeah, I appreciate Rudyard's because they got a lot of comedy stuff going on. I just tried to go see somebody there the other week.
I haven't been in a long time. I never noticed any occult imagery in there though, but
Yeah, last time we were there, main floor. I was just seeing.
they've always had like the checkered floor, right?
I mean, I believe so. That's that's one thing, but there's a movie coming out about the Wild West oil and Native Americans, and it's got like Robert De Niro, Leonardo DiCaprio in it. We just saw the preview last night. But there's a really interesting scene where it's just talking about like the top elite people, money people going out west, taking over the Native Americans, getting all this, like the first time they found oil out there.
You know about Jekyll Island?
No.
That's something that you guys should check out. So it was a it's all still there. It's like an island off the coast of what state is it?
Georgia?
Used to be basically owned by all the elites.
Whoa.
Yeah, Rockefellers, Rothschilds all had buildings there. And the rumor is that there was a mansion that they built where they would have their meetings. It was kind of like an old what's it called? World Economic Forum,
I could see that.
where they would meet up once a year on Jekyll Island at these mansions. Everybody would stay for like a week, but they would negotiate, politics and what's happening with the country. And the rumor is that in the basement where they would have their meetings, they built it on top of a sacrificial rock that the Native Americans used.
Wow.
And I believe they were having human sacrifices on this. The Native Americans were doing human sacrifices on this rock, as far as the
Jesus.
story goes. And these guys built their a mansion on top of it, and in the basement, this rock is still there, and that's what they would meet around to have.
Oh
these.
God, it's like protruding out of the ground, basically, or in the ground.
Type in like Jekyll Island rock. Yeah, there's a few. There you go. Secret meeting.
Secret rock meeting.
There's a few YouTube documentaries that are pretty short about it. Nowadays it's basically just a tourist attraction. Like you can go there, you can tour the old mansions. I'd like to go check it out.
Yeah.
And it looks like a cool place. But yeah, apparently it used to basically be like the old Bohemian Grove, where they would all go meet there, the elites, and congregate and come up with the way that they wanted to mold society.
I was just in Washington State for the past 2 weeks, and I was on Orcas Island in the San Juan Island chains. So that's like right by Canada, top left corner, United States, by like Vancouver. Like you can see Vancouver. And but we were listening to a podcast about some mystery thing, and it was on another island right around there. Maybe it was on San Juan Island, I believe, the main one. And it was about this guy who was a really prominent Mason back in the day, like way back in the day, and was one of the first people to come out there for, I think, mining or something like that. I forget exactly what it was, but he built this shrine that's like this monument where there are maybe like 6 cement seats and then a table and then all his symbols and whatever. So they said. And all their remains are within the seats. Like their cremated remains are within the seats.
Really?
And so they were saying that there's like a lot of haunting stuff that goes on out there too. And you just have to go out there, and it's almost like a art piece, but it's also all these testimonies of people seeing people walk around that area or hearing people talking when nobody's out there. And I was like, ooh. And I was so close to it, but we didn't go.
That's wild.
Yeah, there was more to it even.
So how long ago did that happen?
a while ago, like late 1800s. Like late 1800s, I believe. I'm trying to I forget what it's called.
And what were you saying? So the only thing that's left are these chairs?
Yeah, it's like the monument that he had made, but all of their cremated remains from each member of the family, like him, the wife, and the kids, are all within these chairs. And there was somebody who they were
Is there a
talking.
picture of the monument?
I'm trying to remember what it's called. I know my girlfriend would know immediately. Monument. Jeez. It's hard to type these days. Damn. I will have to figure it out at another point. I totally forget the name of it.
What subject are we on now?
Well, most good stuff you can't find on the internet, so.
This weird monument right on the island an island next to where I was that it's like all these chairs and a table that's set up in late 1800s that has their cremated remains in it. It's haunted. And he was
Just to top things off, what are your closing words for the audience? And I have a couple closing words, and then Chad will wrap it up, and we have more things in store here.
I don't know. Seek the truth. Be kind to your fellow human being. Never judge another because you don't know what's going on in their life. Like I say, everybody's where they're supposed to be for a reason. Maybe you can help lighten the load for them a little bit without knowing it. And always search for truth and knowledge and try to better yourself.
Yeah. Man, I was going to ask you about Maurice Doriel,
Who's that?
the translator of the Emerald Tablets. The famous translation of the Emerald Tablets was by Maurice Doriel, but who I believe was a Rosicrucian. But that's another subject. I just wanted to say the reason I told the story about the newspaper Ink Butts is because I don't like telling that story, and I frankly never thought in my life that I would really be telling that story, because it doesn't. Who wants to know about that? It's not a. But the reason this story is coming up now is because I have a trauma response to what I'm seeing. I don't even like to go there because it makes me feel like I'm complaining and I'm like, oh, this is like psychotherapy. No. I'm just trying to share my story because hindsight is 20/20 and history can teach us lessons. It's not about me. Don't feel pity on me. Just think about what I'm saying.
I mean, that's like our doctor, Dr. Ching and Tammy, they're refugees from communist China. And, if you talk to them about politics, they're super conservative because they've lived through it. They have past trauma.
Thank you.
You know what I mean?
Thank you. And every survivor of communism will basically have the same story for you.
Yeah.
Whether it's Cuba or China or Venezuela or Russia or Vietnam, blah, 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 it's all the same. So please listen to us because we've seen it. We've seen the tactics. This is the same tactics, just on steroids, where they're using technology. And they're lulling you into this zombie-like state where you think everything is fine, but just because you're able to watch reruns of Grey's Anatomy doesn't make things okay. Please, go ahead, Chad.
Yeah, I second all that. And I think next time we would love to have Ryan and your friend that you're mentioning. That would be really fun. We can go even more on everything that we're talking about. We were just saying, like, we just need a solid 4 hours, 4 or 5 hours, 6, whatever.
We could break it up into a couple episodes.
Yeah, and we're going to come back, do it. But Ryan, thanks for coming and imparting all your knowledge on us.
Thank you guys, as always. It's always fun to come and hang.
We're going to post it. You'll see Ryan's stuff. Look forward to the tattoo shop.
Yeah. Rose and Cross Tattoo.
Rose and Cross Tattoo. And this has been number 78, hopefully. And we'll see you soon.